much time I've got right now, and somebody's doing some kind of blend. What do you think? You like this? Does this look good? Hmm? I think this is probably, if I started off this way, we might be able to get somewhere, right? All right. Well, they turned the mowers across the street off, right? And so that's nice. And, I've got this beautiful marvel here that has not happened until within the last 72 hours, where I have a new friend. I'm not going to put him in view because I respect his modesty. I don't want you to see him. But he lives in my plant now, and he's beautiful. I've never seen one like him before, right? But, I think that I'm supposed to acknowledge some things, and I want to talk a little bit about historical trauma and coping mechanisms and derivative litigation all mixed together. So if you're billing this as opposed to some sort of specialization code that would then determine the rate, and then you were to start assigning or ascribing the rate structure in accordance with who within that particular facility was making what rate in order to produce what kind of work, you're going to have to figure out the time splicing and how to apportion that. The thing is, you shouldn't actually be monetizing any of this for you, right? But for some reason, somebody else had this entitlement that they were able to do that for a long time. And so I'm just letting you know up front, I'm not consenting to you doing that, but apparently that's what you're doing. All right, let's talk about some things. Moshe Dayan. Have you guys any idea who this guy is? I had a book of his. I used to have this small collection of books. I kept it in my in the head. And his biography was in there. I didn't read it so much, but one day I sat down and I read it. I was going to read it from the front to the back, and I got through the first few chapters of his life, including the time when he was arrested and in jail. And he did a prisoner's strike. In accord with the results of the prisoner's strike, which was in a prison that was being overseen by the British in Mandate Palestine. One of the things he started doing with some other people is they had the equivalent of a letter writing campaign. And the understanding about this was to acquire some sort of prisoner's rights for the people that were there with them at the time. And the ironic thing was, as I recall correctly, initially, he and the immediate group of people who were doing the primary organizing and were creating the primary praxis were not the ones that received relief. That other people that were prisoners ended up getting some of the gains of the intended movement. And that had to be factored into what was going to happen later on. Now, I did not read the biography past the first chapter. Something in my spirit said, no, that's what you need to know for now. Come back later. Well, years later, I'm like, you know what? I want to look something up real quick. And I find this article I'd never seen before. It talks about Moshe Dayan in Vietnam during the Vietnam War. Apparently, Moshe Dayan, in the official ministerial role he was in, ended up getting called to participate in an observation mission regarding the American military in Vietnam. And while he was there, he was very candid. But more than the candor in connection with what he said and did, was the manners in which he had himself portrayed in photographic image. It was different and distinct from other people that were being photographed, especially in the field. He would seem to take a very conscious stance in presenting something about his comportment relative to the other people he was among that gave a visual cue of resistance. Some kind of visual cue that lets you know if all you saw was the picture, he was standing apart, even if he was right there among them. Now, I'll give you an example. There's a picture of him with the American GIs, and they're wading across the river. If you ever see it, you'll understand immediately, specifically the placement of certain articles, what it means that he has these articles placed upon him in a particular way. Other visual images that were part of the story that I understand were also part of the photographing of him specifically as part of this expedition. I think about this because at some point in time in Chicago, they had a library exhibit of dog tags from people who were Vietnam veterans. If you ever been to the Harold Washington Library, if you were in the Harold Washington Library at least spring and summer of 2016, you would have seen it. It was in the big stairwell, with the escalators. As you go up, they had this exhibit, and they had the dog tags. And what I understand happened is the creator of the exhibit put the name of everybody that was listed on the Vietnam Memorial on a dog tag and hung it from the ceiling. But right in the middle was one black dog tag with no name on it. And that one lone black dog tag was supposed to represent all of the fallen dead of the Vietnamese. And everybody from the American side that was killed during the Vietnam War, at least that they recorded insofar as the official records of the war were reflected, had an individual dog tag with their own name as part of this raining of metal, which is what it looked like. It looked like a huge rain shower of metal coming down at you. All of them a single large drop, specifically named, except for one lone black dog tag with no name, and yet all of the unnamed were that one black dog tag. Okay, we're 6 minutes and a half in. Can I keep talking? Do you need me to stop? You haven't shut off yet. You haven't cut out yet. You haven't killed me yet. All right, cool. All right, okay. Is this good enough for you?